you ever felt frustrated, overwhelmed, or stuck wasting time in admin instead of growing, leveraging, and scaling your business? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to Delegate to Elevate, the podcast that's all about handing off what you don't need to do so you can focus on what you do best. So here's your host, Bonnie Schutz.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Delegate to Elevate. Get done. How are you today? I am so excited to bring on my guest, Gwen Bortner, who has advised entrepreneurs and professionals in 45 plus industries over 4 decades. In that time, she's learned that when it comes to sustainable success, you have to design with intention. The women she advises succeed in business without becoming secretly unhappy by discovering what they really want and aligning the functions of their business accordingly. They rely on her to identify bottlenecks others overlook and craft a practical plan for clearing them efficiently. Gwen shares her unique approach and insights on her podcast, The Business You Really Want, where she helps visionary women entrepreneurs build sustainable, fulfilling businesses aligned with their values. Through her work and her podcast, Gwen empowers business owners to create success on their own terms. Welcome, Gwen. I almost said Glenn. Sorry about that.
I've been called worse.
Right?
I'm so glad to be here, Bonnie.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. I know what I'll share with folks is that Gwen and I belong to a group of amazing women entrepreneurs and career women in the 6, 7, and 8 figure revenue ranges who just collaborate over compete. And we have established a great friendship and understanding of one another's trials and tribulations in the professional services arena, especially delegation. What I would love to ask you first is the natural question. Do you have any fun delegation stories, either on your own, like that you've delegated in your business and had a bump or hiccup or good thing happen, or, with some of your clients?
So when people say all you have to do is with delegation, it makes it sound like you just hand it off, poof, done. And it's like, that is the biggest lie on the planet. Because first off, delegation done well really is not easy. And it also is not fast, because a lot of people, when they think they're delegating, they're just handing a task off, but they're still keeping ownership of the responsibility of the task. For me, part of what I talk about, real delegation, is for folks to have the complete ownership and responsibility. And that is a long process. You can't just instantly do it. And so I spend a lot of time with my clients helping them redefine into what I'm going to call the correct definition of delegation, instead of what they're seeing, on social media and the internet and, all of kind of everyone's best practices. Oh, just hire a VA. That's all you have to do. It's like hiring a VA.
Just hire a VA.
Yeah, absolutely might be the right answer, but it's not like I hire a VA and all of the problems are solved. And a lot of the
times, magical poof.
Yeah, poof. And part of the reason a lot of times people are really frustrated when they hire a VA, my experience, is because they had completely unrealistic expectations of what that process was going to be. And because I know you also have a VA executive assistant agency, I can imagine this happens to you all the time. That the expectations just do not line up, because they're seeing what people are saying on the internet and social media, which isn't an accurate reflection.
Isn't that true over all media?
Right. Well, yes, we can go there as
well. Whole another Oprah.
Since we're staying on this topic, I'm going to stay focused on this particular one.
It's true, though. I wish at times on my favorite wish list is that people that do come to me for VA services understood that a little better and knew that that's not necessarily where they should or could start and have that magic poof and have that VA jump in there and immediately take ownership and care about what they're doing. That has to be kind of learned or given, over time, and when you have to build that trust. So I oftentimes like to refer people to people such as you that helps them a little bit more with their business strategy and what they may really need first before they need a VA. then that gives the VA a little more leeway to learn and grow and have a little bit more knowledge of what's expected of them.
Well, right. And part of it really is understanding what that time commitment is going to be. When
Right.
one of the times that we talked about it on our podcast, Tanya and I were talking about it together. We said, real delegation generally takes 3 to 6 months to be
Absolutely.
fully delegated. And like I said, up
Yes.
to that ownership level. And if you're not taking it to the full ownership level, then a lot of times it's just duplicate work. And that's why
Yeah.
people get frustrated. And so I think, if I was to like say, what do I think is the biggest problem is I don't think people really understand what delegation is. They think it's
Yeah.
here's my task list, do my task list. It's like, yeah.
I'm over here cracking up.
It can work that way if you happen to find the right unicorn, but
Yes.
it's highly unlikely that you're going to find that right unicorn.
Absolutely. You're preaching to the choir over here. Yeah. I mean, even if we think of like a marketing agency, like we're delegating to a marketing agency or we're delegating to a bookkeeper. I recently did a poll on LinkedIn and I said, what was the first thing you delegated in your business? And astoundingly, everyone said bookkeeping. And I've said that was the first thing in my business. But even that, how long does it take to get a bookkeeper up to speed on all the things you got coming in and out of your books? It's going to take some time.
Yeah. And how you want to categorize things and what things matter, because so many folks say, well, obviously this is this. And it's like, but is that obvious that that's that?
To you, it might be obvious.
Right. And because things that are so obvious in our head, we forget that, that there's not like this little ticker tape coming out, saying everything that's in our head. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because it's so clear to us, it's like, how could anybody think anything different? And it's like,
that's why I'm so admittedly awful after being an EA in corporate America for 30 years, like delegating myself to an EA. I'm the worst because it's like nobody can do this. Like, you know what I mean, right? It's obvious. I am so guilty of doing exactly what you just said. Why did she do it that way? Who the heck does it that way? This is how you do it. And it's just because we get so stuck in our ways. But that's another maybe golden nugget. Like, are you stuck in your ways? Are you flexible in that? Not everybody speaks the same communication, love language, or whatever you want to call it. Can you flip and help each other learn?
Well, and when you're talking about that whole, are you stuck in your ways? It is the question of, are you doing it the best way? Are you just doing it the way that you know how to do it? Right? Because sometimes, bringing someone in, whether it's an EA, a VA, an OBM, there's a whole range of people and they all have, different responsibilities, but often they can bring in and say, I know you're doing it this way, but what about this way? But the other is, have an open mind. But the other is sometimes there is a reason. And I think one of the things that people miss a lot in the delegation is the why behind.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah.
The
why do you want me to do it this way?
Yeah. Why do you want to do it this way? Why don't we do it this other way? Right. And because sometimes there really are reasons. It could be, a cultural, business culture reason.
Right.
It could be because of some other element within the business that they may not be seeing. But it's like the reason this matters is like 6 steps down the road that you have no access or vision into.
Yeah. I have a funny why with my business. So when we brought in the bookkeeper, my husband had been doing the books for a while. And for some reason, QuickBooks and our bank just didn't like to do their thing when we were doing it. And so it wouldn't tell us if we had clients paying the same amount. It wouldn't tell us which client it was. So we could never match it to the client. So every client, if they're $1 apart, is intentional. Now, a bookkeeper coming in would be like, what the heck? Why don't you streamline your pricing? So there's an example of a why. Well, we do this because our little bank in Colorado does not like to, match to QuickBooks very well. So we, offset it by 50 cents or $3. So everybody's different. There is whys. There are reasons.
There are whys. And then the other piece that we had actually happen really recently for us when we were bringing in, someone was taking on some more responsibility. They've been working with us for a while, but was taking on, a different set of roles. was because she was good, she asked some questions, and it was like, I said, well, couldn't we just do this? And they said, no, because we have to do X, Y, Z. And I said, but why do we have to do X, Y, and Z? Right. And then I realized that the reason that we were doing X, Y, and Z, because of course, I've designed, helped design all of these systems, right, was for a different why way down the road that no longer exists.
Ooh.
Right.
Okay.
So using your example, like you may at some point change banks.
Right.
And it will be because it's part of your process. You'll continue to like offset your pricing by these little bits. And at some point,
Right.
someone's going to say, why are we doing that? And it's like, oh,
What?
because. And it's one of those things, like I said, if you're like me, all of a sudden it's going to be like, because that's no longer a
We
problem.
don't have to do that anymore.
We don't have to do that.
We got to evolve a little bit. And yeah, it's the openness to hearing other people's opinions, understanding better, asking more questions for that why. Why do you do that? Okay. And then do you think you need to do this because blah, blah? Do you think you can change because I'm used to doing it this way and you're used to doing it that way? Can we meet in the middle? I mean, it's all this. And I had an episode earlier and I called it the 7 C's of working successfully when you delegate. And the one that always comes into play is communicate and clarity, be clear, make there no gray area. And so it's just about asking those questions and asking the whys. And I feel like that's sometimes very difficult for people. Like just ask.
It is. And, I love that. One of the phrases that we use around our world with our clients is clarity is kindness.
I love that. Yes.
Right. And because it is, right, the more clear you are. But a lot of people don't like asking the question because they don't want to feel like they're doubting or any of that. And on the other side, the people giving the information often don't want to make it sound like I'm talking down to you,
or I'm too busy. Don't bother me. Yeah.
Right. That I've got too many, I don't believe that you understand all this. So I'm going to give you all the details. And they think that, I'm micromanaging. It's like, no, actually more information, usually like 90+% of the time, is actually better.
The more information I have, the better I can serve you.
Yeah,
because I already have any question that comes up, I already know the answer to. Yeah.
Yeah. Hardly ever do we give too much information.
Yeah, right. Because I say that quite often with my team, over communicate, especially in this remote world. If you say things 5 different ways but mean the same thing and put it in 3 different platforms, a text, a Slack, and an email, then that's clear. That's perfectly clear what you want. You kind of have to do that. I know that me in this time of my life and my Rolodex, that is my brain, the things I can remember, if I am all over the place, who knows where I'm going to be that day? And that day I'm a texter all day and I'm going to remember what you said to me in a text more than I did on an email that's falling down the email, inbox hole. So yeah, I kind of say over communicate. There's nothing wrong with that. Then there's clarity. It is kind.
Yeah. One of the things that we implemented, it must be about 2 years ago now, and it's made a huge difference in our business. And we're talking about communication and being able to delegate and whatnot, is we have gotten very clear about which platforms of communication are used for specifically which kind of things. And then if there's any doubt for any reason, like, I'm traveling or someone's on vacation or, there can be kind of the exception. Right. Then we have kind of like the secondary level rule of you can also do this. But like one of the things that helped a lot was, for us, and I'm not saying it's the right answer for everybody, but for us, we said email only is used for external communication. We don't use it internally unless we are forwarding an external communication, internally.
Being copied on something for informational purposes.
We aren't like trying to cut and paste, because that ends up becoming its own problem, in and of itself. But then we're using Slack as our internal, communication. And part of it is because I'm old. And so I'm not attached to my phone like most people are.
Me either.
People are like, I texted you like an hour ago and it's like,
my phone's off.
I've been away for 3 hours and I haven't looked at my phone, or right now it's sitting right here, but I don't pay attention to it at all.
That's the question you ask as a service provider. Like, and I don't know why I've called it this, but I've always said, what is your communication love language? Because I want to know that. And like you said, I'm an emailer. That's my place to be. Email first, Slack second, and then text is like third. Like Bonnie, Slack is always on and I'm OCDAD. Whatever you want to call me. Like I see the red dots or the open bold print. I have to do something about it. But that's one of the things we ask during a kickoff call between a client and a VA is what way can they get a hold of you best that you're going to be sure to see and respond to? And then we tell the VAs, if they don't hear you, see you, respond to you that way, then send that text or something, say, please check your email. I'm dead in the water here until you reply back.
Right.
But it's there's the over communication, but I think it's pretty
Well,
necessary.
and something someone else said, which I thought was really, really useful. I can't remember where I heard this. I think I was at a Golden Swan event, which includes Chris Voss and Joe Polish and Nick Peterson, and so I'm sure it was one of the three of them. I can't remember who it was. I like to try to credit smart ideas from other places, but what they were talking about is one of the things that people get in the habit of doing is sending the exact same message on all platforms, and the problem is that trains people to not actually pay attention to any of them.
Yeah, you're like, oh, well, it'll be over here next time I look. Oh, well, that's good.
Right.
That's interesting.
So, but doing like what you said of email is our, I'm just picking an example. I'm not saying it's the right one, but like email is our primary way of communicating with you. And if we text, it will be, please check your email.
To draw your attention to the email.
Right. It will not say, please check your email because we're asking about this and this and this and this and this so that they respond in the text. Right. Because now it's like, oh, I don't ever have to look at my email. And if that email comes, it doesn't matter. Right.
Isn't it true that I often say that I should have been a communications graduate from college because of all I teach people about communicating all day, every day. Yeah, that's a thing for me for sure. But yeah, communication is key, and it's a little old saying, but it's so true. And clarity is kind. Ooh, I love that. Communication is key. I'm going to have to go back to my 7 C's and have a little quirky thing about each one of them to say, because I like that clarity is kind. You are setting somebody up to be successful and not have to bother you too often because they have what they need. You're super clear in your delivery about what your expectations are with them and meeting with them often. So, boy, I would love to give our audience some takeaways today too. And I think for me, it's a takeaway we've said quite often, but it's so relevant, and it is the communication and clearness in what you're delivering. But can you think of something super important that professional service providers specifically should be able to provide to somebody they're delegating or they're outsourcing to?
I think the most important thing is to realize that delegation done well is rarely done fast.
Absolutely.
It's going to take time. You need to treat it like an investment. And so if you're expecting to hire someone to delegate something and to like completely recoup all of those hours instantly, you're just always going to be disappointed. And you're going to recoup the hours over time, and then there'll be a point that you completely recoup the hours, and that will go on, for.
It is exactly like an investment, right?
Right.
There's some ups, there's some downs until you find your cadence. So I always use that trust but verify thing, at least in the first 90 days or so, like you said, 90 days, 6 months. Like trust, because you trust in yourself that you've communicated clearly what you need and that you did your due diligence when you brought this person on, when you interviewed them or were given them to review and select from. And then you will set yourself up for success. I truly believe that.
I think that would be the biggest thing, is that you need to prepare for a longer onboarding process than what social media is telling you.
That's right. And is it always going to work out? No. It's like a relationship. There's divorces. And so don't think that it is going to be that golden unicorn and it's going to work out for sure. Life happens to people. And if you are a professional service provider working with another professional service provider, you should get that and, and know that that can happen, but wish for the best, obviously, if you're doing what you need to do. But yeah, I go through all the ups and downs in our business, with things working and things don't work. But do you have any client horror stories? I'm so hesitant to ask people that, but it's just, it is what it is.
Well, I don't
Or
have a
maybe where
lot
they
of,
don't let you do your thing or they're stepping all over your toes.
yeah, I don't have a lot of client horror stories, but part of it
Good.
is because I'm really excellent at setting boundaries. And
Ooh,
so,
yes.
and anyone who's spent very much time with me is like, oh yeah, no, Gwen knows what her boundaries are, and I'm very firm about them. I try not, at least, to ever be rude about them.
Same.
And I know when I will let someone cross them, but they also are very clear that they have crossed them, you know.
Just
And
letting you know.
right, I mean, an example that happened relatively recently was I was on my way to the airport for vacation, and one of my clients called, and it was kind of like, well, actually, I got an email, and I looked, and it was like, I am panicking, kind of a thing. And people knew I was getting, on my way to, to do vacation. And
Yeah.
so I went ahead and picked up the phone and called her and kind of talked her off the ledge, as it were, for
Right.
for probably 45 minutes, which was, way outside of my normal scope of work. But she also knew I would answer the phone because it was, panic, it was a panicky
Right.
kind of thing, and I said, I've got this much time because we are on the way to the airport, and,
Yeah.
once we get there, we've got to, do all the airporty things that you have to do,
Exactly. Which I
right?
can't be balancing with my cell
Yeah,
phone.
no, exactly. And so, but that was an example of, she went over the boundary, but I also allowed her to go over the
That's good.
boundary,
No, that's
right?
really good. I like
And
that.
and she's not calling every day, like in
She
this kind of,
understood that you made the exception for her
she
emergency or whatever it was. Yeah.
exactly. And because of that, I really don't have very many client, kind of client horror stories that
No,
happen
that's a good example though.
to
I like
me,
that.
but it really is about setting really clear and strong boundaries and being willing to hold on to them. Because at the same time, Tanya, who's my marketing and operations person,
Hmm.
saw the email and also texted me and said, do I need to take this?
Awesome. That's awesome.
And it was like, no, I got it. I've got it for now. But then I called her at the end of it to say, you need to know this is what's going on in case it comes up and you need to deal with it this next week while I'm
Well,
out.
that
But
tips
she
for me.
also knew I was not going to answer it.
I'm going to attempt to take almost a 1 month trip at the end of this year and let my business roll. So big tips for me. And I think I just have to have a lot of phone calls before I go.
Yeah, it really is about setting the boundaries. During that same trip, just by chance, I had another client who said, "Oh, I'm needing to have a call with this person, and they really would like you on there."
Mm,
And I said, if the weather is as bad as they're predicting, I'm not going to be skiing, and so I'll be happy to get on the call. But
okay.
if not, I won't. And I didn't say, I'm not going to say like I'm going to tell you ahead of time or not.
Yeah.
That was my response. Well, it turned out it was
Okay.
the first day that the sun came out.
Oh,
So I didn't get on the call, and I never felt bad about it because
good.
if they really wanted me on the call, they could have scheduled it the following week. I
Absolutely.
am not dealing with what I call fire, flood, or blood,
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
right? And neither are any of my clients. And
Right.
so it's like if it has to wait for a day or two or a week or
Yeah. It can
people
wait
are
till I
not
get
going
back
to
from my
die.
vacation.
It may feel like it at the moment, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So I think takeaways today that both of us agree upon is communication and clarity, and don't have unrealistic expectations when working with somebody new or delegating or outsourcing something in your business. And then boundaries. Amen, sister, boundaries. Let's keep those things and, show our customer service on occasion, and we can, take the fence down for a minute, but make it clear. There's that clarity. I did make an exception for you. I normally do not and will not do this, but it just so happened my stars aligned and I was able to do this for you today. Can you think of anything else that I missed that were like 3 powerful takeaways today?
Oh, I think those are all the biggies, and they're all good.
Yeah. Amen. Yes. Okay. Well, oh my gosh. I'm just so happy you came today. And I think this is going to be a super valuable episode for those that are considering delegating or outsourcing things in their business because of these 3 wonderful takeaways that you and I unanimously know are the best 3 that we can think of on the spot here. I like to be called Bonnie on the spot anyway. So, everybody have a great, great day. I'd like to thank you, Gwen, again so much for being here with me today.
Thank you
And
for having
we
me.
will post your bio and your links and everything below. And I hope you all will let me know if this episode resonated with you. Send me some questions. We will have Gwen on again if you need some more advice or you're having a little bit of a road blockage in the delegation world. We're happy to help and bring you another more powerful episode that's specific to you. Who knows? I'm open to it all. So thank you so much. Please delegate to elevate. Listen to the podcast, like, subscribe, leave me some notes, and have a fantastic day. Bye.
So that's it for today's episode of Delegate to Elevate. Head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $15,000 private VIP day with Bonnie herself. Be sure to head on over to delegatetoelevatepodcast.com. That's with the number 2. And pick up a free copy of Bonnie's gift and join us on the next episode.